Good evening, Mr. Martin. This is Leslie Jones with the 107. We were expecting you to join our call this evening for the live stream for HBCU 107 week. You can check your email. You might want to check the spam folder as well because we have a link for you to join in. Hopefully, you'll get this before we move along too far in the show. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the third night of HBCU 107 Week, brought to you by the 107, an organization founded to positively promote the nation's historically Black colleges and universities. I hope that you have been participating the past few days, and I hope that you are registered um, for our events. Because if you are not registered, one, you're not eligible for the scholarship giveaway that we are going to have this evening. And secondly, you will not be able to receive some of the information that we are sending out to participants or registrants at the end of the week, which will include a book that highlights all of the HBCUs that are participating this week. So make sure you're registered and ready to go. I'm going to share the link. Make sure you know how to register in case you haven't done so. There you go. There's also a pop-up Facebook group, which means it's designed to be a short-term group. You can go in, you can learn more about participating HBCUs. You can learn more about different information regarding the HBCUs that are participating this week, and information about different HBCU academic programs. Yesterday, on Sunday, we started off our week and we highlighted HBCU alumni in the business industry. Yesterday, we highlighted those who are in arts and entertainment. And tonight, we are going to be highlighting HBCU alumni who have found success in the field of communications. Just like the past two nights, all of our participants come from different HBCUs, and they have different paths to their success. They have different careers as well. So you want to make sure you're listening, taking notes, because they're going to be giving a lot of great advice, and they're going to be letting us know all about the paths that they've taken in order to have a successful career in their field. We are also highlighting programs for veterans. Many people serve our country, and then once they're finished, or even while they are still serving the country, want to go ahead and pursue a higher education. Fortunately, it's possible to do that at an HBCU. There Most schools have an office for veteran services that you can contact and get information from. But right now, we're going to put a spotlight on Fayetteville State University. Fayetteville State University is actually the HBCU that educates the most military-connected families of any HBCU. And it makes sense if you think about it because it's located in Fayetteville, North Carolina, near Fort Bragg. So they educate a lot of veterans, a lot of their family members. And now they also have a special program that I'll talk to you about briefly once we watch this presentation on their veteran program.
Fayetteville State University is positioned perfectly to serve our military students both on military bases and here on campus. We are closely located to Fort Bragg. We're only about 10 miles away, and we have an extremely large population of military students on our campus. About 30% of our entire student body population are military connected. So that's active duty, veterans, National Guard, reservists, military family members, including children and spouses.
Serving my country means a lot to me. It's a big deal, and I think it's an honorable thing to do for anyone that wants to do it. I think it's part of my legacy. A lot of my family members have served in the military, so I think it was just the right thing to do, and it was something that I was always destined to do. I think it's in me to do, just following in that lineage and doing my part. Growing up here in Fayetteville, my dad was in the 82nd Airborne, so I've always had paratroopers and military members around me. When the time came, I was like, I think I want to fly. And from that, I've been able to gain a pilot slot, which is a really big thing in the Air Force. From that, plan to go over the Air Force decides to send me, and wherever they send me, I want to do my best and just carry on that legacy.
Two individuals on this side, facing out this side of the road. Bravo team leader will then do the same thing, but on the near side of the road.
I believe that we do a very good job at creating tomorrow's leaders, not only with the different trainings and different opportunities that are afforded to us, but by the amount of cohesion that we have and the amount of competitiveness that is in the program and the atmosphere around here.
I chose FSU because I am prior service at Fort Bragg, so I was already established here. But I specifically wanted to come to FSU, Fayetteville State University, because it's a HBCU. I definitely love the community, the minority community, and bringing that experience and what I gained from that into the Army.
What I enjoy about the ROTC program is the competitiveness, and it also allows me to tie the technical and tactical proficiencies that are found in a leader and connect them with anything that I may have not known as prior enlisted. It also gives me the opportunity to provide leadership and mentorship to newer cadets.
You know, I want to provide them with those tools to be successful. So in a group like this with consistent prior service, with a population of underclassmen that need that enrichment, I think we have the clear opportunity to give them that teaching, that coaching, that mentorship to allow them to be successful.
So as you can see, Fayetteville State does a great job of working with military families, members of the military and veterans. Last month, they also made an announcement that stated that stating that they were going to offer a tuition-free education for all military-adjacent individuals. That means that active duty military, veterans, children of military, and spouses of military are able to attend Fayetteville State University without paying any tuition whatsoever. It's a great opportunity. If you are listening and you fall into one of those categories, you might want to check out Fayetteville State University for your educational options. Next, we're going to hear from, we're going to hear a recorded video. Sorry about that. We have a recorded video that features Sharice Churchill, who is the press secretary for the governor of Maryland.
Hi, Sharice.
Good evening, Rachel. How are you?
Good. How about yourself?
I'm well. Happy to talk about Hampton University. Proud of my blue and white.
Of course, as you should be. Actually, go ahead and tell me about Hampton and your time there.
Well, I obviously I'm a graduate of Hampton University, 1993. I'm sorry, 97, home of the Pirates. It's actually my 25th year graduating from college. I grew up in the suburbs and didn't really have a lot of people that look like me. And when I went to start looking for colleges, I really wanted that Black experience. I had a cousin who had graduated from Hampton University, and I'm not gonna lie, there was a show, A Different World, that was the spinoff of The Cosby Show. It had a huge influence on my decision to go to an HBCU. And that's how I ended up at Hampton. It was the only school that I applied to. I did not have a plan B. I loved the experience. It was, when I got to Hampton, it was really my first taste of freedom. I'm from Maryland born. I was 4 hours away from home. And it was just comforting to see people that looked like me. And I mean, and that was on the superficial, that was on just the surface side. But when you got to know people and see people from all over the nation, come from different backgrounds, but we all had that shared experience. It was a once in a lifetime opportunity that obviously I still talk about to this day.
That's awesome to hear that you like always have kind of wanted to go to an HBCU. For me, it was more just like oh, let's try this out, trying to get a different experience. But what was your major at Hampton University? What did you graduate with?
My major was mass media arts with an emphasis in broadcast journalism. That major no longer exists at Hampton. Years ago, they formed a partnership, and now I believe it's the Scripps Howard School of Journalism and Communications. At the time, I wanted to be on-air talent. I was a co-anchor for Hampton University's broadcast station at the time. I had a cousin who was a broadcast journalist, and she was a big influence in my desire for that career. After college, I did pursue a number of internships and actually worked at a couple of television stations. And it was then that I kind of realized that I liked working more behind the scenes, and that sort of led me to my career today.
Okay, so that's good that you mentioned your internship. So with your internships, you did like one at a TV station. So what was the internship that you did that paved the way into your career that you're in now?
So it's interesting. I worked at a television station. I interned at a television station, and while I was there, I was offered a job to work for a congressman. And at the time, it was a long commute to travel to DC every day, but we kept in touch. And when I actually went to work at a television station, this congressman was running for governor, and he asked if I would join his campaign to work as his deputy communications director. So that was one of my first jobs in politics. And I took a risk, I took a chance. I joined his campaign, even though he was a long shot, and he won as governor. And he was the first of two governors that I have been press secretary for. That's my current job right now. I'm press secretary to the governor of Maryland.
So how long have you been in that position again?
I've been in this position for 7 years. I work for a governor whose term will end in January. And that's the risk of working in politics. You have to reinvent yourself every so often. So anybody who's watching, I'm available.
What are some of your biggest professional achievements with that?
Well, working for two governors is a huge achievement for me. I love writing press releases. The governor that I work for largely acts as his own spokesperson, but in the first time that I worked for a governor, I had a lot of on-air opportunities responding to the media. I deal with the press every day. One of the things that is most important to me is just the relationships Relationships are the key to everything. If you can connect with people and form relationships, it can take you like very far in your career, and that's very important to me. So the reporters that I work with every day are some of the same reporters that I worked with years ago. So I just think that keeping those connections, developing networking opportunities is just very important.
So do you feel like your degree kind of prepared you for, even though it was like totally different, do you still feel like it prepared you for the career you're in now?
Absolutely. I tell a lot of the young people that I work with, I think that writing and being able to communicate is essential. It's the foundation of any job that you have. I mean, starting with your resume. I mean, when you look at a resume, you want to see that it's well composed, that it's well articulated. So I think that the mass media arts, even though I did not ultimately pursue broadcast journalism, I think having that strong foundation in mass media arts at an HBCU sort of paved the way for my future career.
That's awesome. So let's go ahead and backtrack a little bit. I kind of want to hear more about the best memories that you had at Hampton University, because I go to NSU and it's obviously just across the bridge. So I just want to hear more about your experience and your memories that you created at Hampton University.
Well, just hanging out on the waterfront. I mean, you can't beat the weather in Virginia during the summer. Hanging out in the waterfront. Actually, I didn't know it at the time, but actually my time at Hampton had a significant impact on my personal life as well. I met my best friend in the cafeteria line at Hampton. We're still best friends to this day. She's not only my best friend, but she's also my sister-in-law now. I married her oldest brother. So I've little did I know.
What a story there.
Little did I know that my time at Hampton would lead to meeting my future husband. I have two daughters. I have a 6-year-old and 9-year-old. My husband is a graduate of Virginia Tech, and we constantly battle because I tell him that I will strongly encourage our girls, even if it's not Hampton, to attend an HBCU. So we're going to have that battle in the next few years. But
that's awesome. So before we go, I would love to hear any advice that you'd like to give any student who wants to pursue a similar path that you're pursuing, or just anyone in general that you want to have some advice to.
Well, I would tell someone to take a risk, develop mentors, pursue intern opportunities, just pursue your passion, but don't close yourself off to other opportunities. You never know where it might lead. And I would just encourage young people to explore HBCUs. It was a once in a lifetime experience for me. It offered a level of student experience, security, preparedness that I didn't know was available at the time. And I really think that, like, for my class, say for instance, I'm the class of 1997, we all still support each other. I belong to an alumni page that we still support each other, not only those in our class, but we have a responsibility to sort of reach back and help others who want to pursue that same opportunity.
All right, gotcha. That's so awesome. Thank you so much for your time. It's been a blessing to be able to talk to you and get some insight on what's going on across the water. But thank you for your time so much, Sharice.
Rock the blue and white.
Behold.
So it's great hearing from one of our successful alumni in the field of communications. One of the reasons we're highlighting the field of communications is to let you know that there are so many different opportunities that are available to you. A lot of times people are told to pursue a career based on the amount of money they make or how practical people think it is. Often a career in communications, majoring in communications or majoring in English is something that people think is not necessarily the best idea. However, as you can see, Ms. Churchill has taken full advantage of every opportunity that's been provided to her and has found a successful path, not only where she was working in a news station, but now as a press secretary for the governor of the state of Maryland. And she has served 2 governors, as she noted. Next, we're going to hear from Dr. Eric Hart, who is the Chief Programs Officer for the Thurgood Marshall College Fund, which is an organization that supports public historically Black colleges and universities. Welcome, Dr. Hart.
Greetings and welcome. Thank you, Leslie, for having us. And I really feel honored to be here with you this evening. Render greetings on behalf of our president and CEO, Dr. Harry L. Williams. On behalf of the Thurgood Marshall College Fund, we just thank you for giving us the space to talk about our organization. We are in the 35th year of TMCF. We were founded in 1987, and we are the nation's largest organization exclusively serving the Black college community. And we're really fortunate that we have the abilities to work with 47 of our publicly funded HBCUs. It's really important time for us right now because as we think about our strategic pillars of policy and advocacy, programs and scholarships, we can use this platform this evening to talk about scholarships that have opened up as of yesterday. For students that are attending or want to attend our publicly funded HBCUs, we have over 30 new scholarships that will be available for students in the fall 22-23 academic school year. We've provided some information about how you can access that, access the scholarship link, but we're really excited because we've worked with companies that really want to pour resources into our students that are attending our HBCUs. And so we ask that those that are listening this evening that may have a student attending an HBCU or a student that is interested in attending an HBCU, or educators that are on the call that work with students that are searching for resources to continue the access into higher education or beginning the first steps of attending an HBCU, to visit our website at www.tmcf.org to access those scholarships that are available. One of the things that's really exciting about our organization in the 35th year of our inceptions, I think about our founder, Dr. N. Joyce Payne. Dr. Payne literally walked on the steps of the Supreme Court and had a meeting with Justice Thurgood Marshall. And in that meeting, she had a desire, a very bold and courageous dream of creating a scholarship program that would support African-American students attending HBCUs. Now, in today's time, you can't just roll up on the Supreme Court and schedule a meeting, but she was bold and she was courageous, and she had that meeting with Thurgood Marshall. And in that meeting, she said, I would like to be able to use your namesake to raise money to support students attending HBCUs. And I believe because you, who have championed social justice and worked through racial inequities throughout the United States in the history of our higher education system, I believe that if we were to use your namesake, that we could create pathways and avenues to level the playing field for young people to go to college. Thurgood Marshall said to Dr. Payne, I will allow my namesake to be used if you can promise me that any money that is raised on behalf of your vision for the organization, that none of those resources return to my family, that all of those resources are going to the students that attend HBCUs. And so over the past 35 years, we're excited to say that over $300 million raised to support students attending our HBCUs have been deployed and put into the coffers of young people so that it can change the trajectory of their life. And we're so proud of the work that we are doing. So reach out to us. We'd love to connect with the students. We really appreciate the opportunity to come before you this evening. While I personally did not attend a HBCU, I had the pleasure of working 7 years at Delaware State University with our president and CEO, Dr. Harry L. Williams, and over the last 3 years prior to joining TMCF at North Carolina A&T State University. So for 10 years of my life, I've been committed to the cause of our HBCUs and certainly enjoyed the work that we're doing at TMCF. So again, on behalf of our founder, N. Joyce Payne, and our president and CEO, Dr. Harry L. Williams, we thank you for this opportunity to just share just a little bit about our organization. We hope that you'll reach out to us, peruse our website, and for those that are in pursuit of scholarships, please log on to our website for some of those active scholarships that are available up until April 4th of this year.
All right. Thank you so much. I'm sure a lot of people listening that are going to watch this recording later will be excited to know that there are many opportunities available for them, especially those who are pursuing a program at a public HBCU. Thank you, Dr. Hart. And now we're going to hear from another professional in journalism, HU advocate. We're going to hear from Ernie Suggs, who is an alum of North Carolina Central University. And he is going to be interviewed by Lydia Brown, who is a student at Wiley College.
Hello, good evening. I'm having a little difficulty with my screen here. Can everyone hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, great. Hi, Mr. Suggs. How are you?
I know my parents loved me, stand behind me, come what may. I know now that I'm ready, yeah, for I finally heard them say, it's a different world, ooh, than where you come from. Yes, it is now, yeah. Here's our chance to make it. And if we focus on our goal, you can decide, we can take it. Hey, just remember that you and too. It's a different world. It's a different world. It's a different world. It's a different world than where you come from. Ooh, 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 than where you come from.
Hi, hello. There we are. Good evening, Mr. Suggs. How are you?
Hello?
Hi, good evening. All right, I can hear you now. So I am thrilled for this opportunity to speak with Mr. Ernie Suggs. Ernie Suggs has been a reporter at the Atlanta Journal-Constitution since 1997, where he's currently covering race and culture, as well as a variety of breaking national news and investigative stories. He's a graduate of North Carolina Central University.
I'm getting a little feedback from you, so I can't, you're going real slow for some reason.
Okay. All right, so I'm just going to keep
Like
going here.
Slow motion.
Oh, no.
Is that me or you?
All right, so I'm going to try to keep going just for the sake of time here, okay? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm not hearing you very well. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right, they're saying they can hear us.
We're gonna pause, Lydia and Ernie, so that we can figure out what's going on with their sound and technology. And in the meantime, we are going to bring up another interview.
Everyone sounds slowed down.
Okay. So we're gonna bring up another interview. We're just gonna keep flowing, do the best we can. And we'll bring you back shortly, Lydia.
Is Lincoln University, the nation's first degree-granting historically Black college and university. Lincoln educates and empowers students to lead their communities and change the world. We invite you to come tour the campus today. Arrange your tour at lincoln.edu. Lincoln University, learn, liberate, lead.
All right, so while we're trying to get everybody straightened out with our technology, we are going to go ahead and get started with our for the evening. So what you do is use a program that will allow everyone who has registered up until this point to have their number for their registration entered into the raffle. And then there's a computer that will put all the numbers in, a program on the computer that I'm going to put all the numbers in, and it is going to shuffle them around, and then it will take those numbers and it will select the winner. So if that winner is listening, then they will win a scholarship. The scholarship this evening is being sponsored by the Washington, D.C. alumni chapter of the Silhouettes. It's a $500 scholarship. All right, so the number for the scholarship is 2903561229. And I know you don't know what your number is, but I'm going to find out who that belongs to in a second. So that number belongs to Zenaida Henderson, who is a student and lives in Illinois. So Zenaida, if you are listening, you need to send me an email at the107.hbcu@gmail.com. Again, Zenaida Henderson, if you are listening, you need to send me an email at the107.hbcu@gmail.com. All right, so Mr. Suggs, are you ready? Can you give me a thumbs up if you can hear me? Does it sound okay? Not really. You can't hear me? All right, so we're gonna move on for right now. And give me a second. We need Malik Burgess. There we go. So Malik Burgess, who is a student at Florida A&M University, is going to interview Morgan State alumna Angela McCrae, and he's going to talk to her about her career in communications. Hey.
Hello. How you doing?
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Leslie. And of course, pleasure to see you, Malik.
Yes, ma'am. It's a great opportunity to, interview you and learn a little bit more about your HBCU experience in the process.
Awesome.
So I will start off the interview by asking you a few questions. So what made you decide to attend an HBCU? And then what made you specifically choose Morgan State University?
Well, Malik, I'm from Maryland. You're from Maryland too, right? We're both Maryland.
Maryland.
Yes, ma'am. So, growing up in Maryland, watching BET on Teen Summit and just, shows like A Different World and just, being in the community of Black excellence and Black HBCU graduates, of course, inspired me. But one of the things that really got me to consider Morgan is being part of Upward Bound, which was a pipeline program between high school and college. And so this program literally set the tone for me, paid for all my college applications, my SATs. On the weekends, we would take classes to study for the SATs and then tour around all these amazing schools in the area. So I had a chance to tour Howard, Lincoln, Cheney, as well as Morgan State. And, I felt like Morgan was a good fit because the campus is amazing, but then also because it was still close to home. It wasn't too far for me to get homesick, but close enough for me to drive back if I needed to.
That's amazing. I wish that I had an opportunity to be in that program. It sounds amazing. Wow. So I guess my second question kind of works off of my last question. Can you tell me a little bit about your HBCU experience? What it was like, being at Morgan State. Did you stay on campus or did you commute, knowing that you were so close to home? Just give me a little bit about how your experience was, and were there any clubs or organizations on campus that you like to share that you participated in?
Oh, that's a good question. To be honest with you, I commuted the first semester. So literally the first semester, I commuted from PG County to Baltimore. It was about an hour, 15-minute commute. And it was interesting because, I always felt the importance of making money. Like I was a hard earner. Like as soon as I got my, my job permit, my worker's permit when I was 15, I never stopped working. So, even though I was commuting, I was still working, so I was getting home late nights. And after the first semester, I realized that was tough because the job that I was able to secure was in Baltimore, and I got a place off campus. At the time, the cost of living was really low, and because I was earning, I decided to live off campus. So I didn't have a traditional HBCU experience. And Malik, I do think, I have missed out. I would say that. I feel like, that's one of the beauties of college life, and particularly in HBCU, is the rich culture and, community that you can build just by being on campus, which I definitely missed out on. However, I can say that because I was a earner and I always had jobs, I was able to secure professional experiences, pretty early on, by getting internships and volunteering. Literally freshman year, I was volunteering at the radio station there, and I was able to get my first TV job when I was an undergrad, when I was a junior, which was part-time and eventually turned into a full-time job.
That's amazing. Wow.
So
wow,
no,
that is really.
I didn't have any sororities or other programs or clubs that I was a part of, except the money earning club.
Yeah, that seems like that really goes into your work ethic. You seem like you work for what you want, and that's really how you have to do it, especially going to the HBCU. So how do you think Morgan State University, like you mentioned, prepared you for your first job, the TV job out of college?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I was able to get that job at the TV station through a Morgan State alum. She was a graduate student at the time. Her and her sister. Every opportunity that I've received, early on in my career was all through the Morgan State connection. So I feel like the number one thing that I've been able to gain, as a student there, is the relationships, the friendships, even just people being in the class that at the time maybe we weren't friends, but after college, sometimes 5, 10, 15 years later, still are valuable connections. That
Yep.
really helps. So I think that's one of the most powerful things is taking advantage of the relationships you build, and also using that, for me, using the student status to get into doors that would be tougher for me to get into had I not been a student.
Got you. Got you. So, moving on a little bit into your career, you are an entrepreneur. You do have your own website and business called Unquote and Culture. So, can you just tell me a little bit about that, just briefly?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, even when I was at Morgan, I started my first business. So entrepreneurship, has been in my blood, and Uncorked and Cultured is just an iteration of that, right? When I was at Morgan in undergrad, I started Urbanite Vision, which is a media company where we was producing TV for the local cable channel in Baltimore City. And so now we're Uncorked and Cultured, which is hopefully my last company and biggest ever, is a because it's like you learn, You fell up.
Yeah.
So don't ever get, I think that's one of the biggest lessons I've learned is even if it doesn't yield what you expect, it's a learning ground, right? So you fail up to get you to that next step. And Uncorked and Cultured is a media platform and community, right? For Black and Brown people to learn about wine, wellness, culture, and adventure. And it's really about us like taking care of ourselves, right? Creating a space as well as content to encourage us to indulge, to, live a lifestyle, be lifestyle oriented because we only have one life and we got to take care of it. And we might as well have fun in the meantime. So it's
Yep.
literally, a space for Black wine entrepreneurs, Black wine professionals, and consumers, as well as everything that kind of fits around that as well.
Yeah, that's so amazing. When we talked about it previously, just how much wine can bring people together just by a cup of wine. It's really amazing. So just going into your career, can you just kind of explain to me what are some challenges that you have had to overcome being an entrepreneur? I know you've talked about previously learning from every experience that you've taken. So can you please just share any challenges that you had?
I think one of the biggest challenges with any entrepreneur is, of course, like raising capital, like getting the support you need, whether it's financially from bank loans or grant funding or investors, just getting that funding. Black businesses across the country are under funded. That's a fact. And I think since George Floyd just literally less than 2 years ago is the first time in American history that it's been a huge effort to really start supporting Black entrepreneurship. And of course, there's been a lot of benefits to that, a lot of media attention and programs and resources. But another thing is just also like visibility, right? Like as an entrepreneur, as a professional as well, sometimes it's just an open space for just one, as opposed to all or as many people that can get in. And so that's a challenge, right? Is being, being able to break down any stereotypes, being able to advocate for yourself as an entrepreneur and leader that, what you're bringing is unique, what you're bringing has value. Because usually if you're the first one to do something or one of few, it's hard to penetrate a market. It's hard to get that respect and that visibility because it's easy for people to say no. And so just the biggest challenge is hearing those no's, but the greatest achievement is overcoming that and getting to that one yes that changes your life.
Yeah, that's so true. So what advice do you have for college students who are looking to really pursue a similar career path as you? They're in school, a journalism major, but they have this idea and they kind of want to act upon it. What advice would you have for them?
Well, I'll say three things. The first thing I would say is do the work, right? Research, do the work, make sure that you take the time to fully and truly understand what it is you want and what you want to embark on. And that requires doing the work. So whether it's researching, whether it's having informational interviews, whether it's, meaning sacrificing, right? Through free labor, through internships, I think the second thing would be working with an entrepreneur, like an entrepreneur, before the digital age, leaned on young talent, in order for success to happen. But also young talent needed that entrepreneur, that small business to allow them to grow and innovate. Because if you go to a huge corporation, 9 times out of 10, especially in the media space, you're going to be ripping scripts. Well, they're not doing that now. But back when I was in college, we was ripping scripts, getting coffee. We were doing the remedial work. But when you work with a small business or somebody that's an entrepreneur, they're going to need you to tap into your talents and your skills, and it allows you to grow faster, and actually, get the leadership things. And then I guess the third thing I would just say is, innovation is amazing. It's important. However, definitely make sure to respect the foundation and the people that's created the way, right? I think right now, with all that's happening right now in this world, we always have to honor, the trends, the trailblazers, the people that have created the path and the foundation, and respect that and understand the value of what it means when it comes to honoring traditions or other, systems that may have been in place. Yep.
Well, it was great talking to you. It seems as if we need to wrap up, but I just really thank you for sharing, that your experience and your experience at the HBCU, not only at the HBCU but also in the professional area. And it was amazing speaking with you, Miss McCray.
Thank you so much, Malik. Great job, and I wish you the best at FAMU.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Angela, for joining us this evening. It was great reconnecting with you this year. And thank you, Malik, for joining in and interviewing Ms. McCray. We're going to see Malik in a couple more days as well, because he's coming back to help interview a few more people for us. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
So now is a great time to spotlight a couple of programs specifically relevant to Ms. McCray and Malik Burgess. So we're talking about communications. There are some programs, there's an accreditation process for many different types of programs. And there is an accreditation process for journalism and communications programs. 6 HBCUs have completed the accreditation process established by the Accrediting Council on Education in Journalism and Communications. Those are Howard University, Florida A&M, Morgan State, Savannah State, Norfolk State, and Southern University. Of course, you're going to hear from, just as we heard earlier, from someone from Hampton, and we have someone from Kentucky State and someone from North Carolina Central. There are other paths to pursuing a successful career in communications besides one of these programs, but I just wanted to highlight these because they are fully accredited by the Accrediting Council on Education in Journalism and Communications.
This is Lincoln University, the nation's first degree-granting historically Black college and university. Lincoln educates and empowers students to lead their communities and change the world. We invite you to come tour the campus today. Arrange your tour at lincoln.edu. Lincoln University, learn, liberate, lead.
Birth, restoration, and revival describes the new era taking place at Wilberforce University. It supports the groundwork to the university's framing imperatives of excellence, innovation, and kindness. The experience is becoming our legacy, remembering our sacrifice and operating at a level of excellence. At Wilberforce, whether you are a student, staff, faculty, alumni, family member, or friend, you have the leverage and freedom to be transformed into a leader. One thing our Wu family does well is persevere and rise to confront opportunity, and we unite to rebuild at our university. We call everyone to continue the legacy at Wilberforce. When me becomes we, less becomes more. Sewell Marte.
We are Wilberforce!
We are Wilberforce!
We are Wilberforce! We are Wilberforce!
All right, so before we move on to our next interview between Ernie Suggs and Lydia Brown, we are going to try one more name for our raffle, our scholarship giveaway. I already have the numbers put in. And let's see who the winner will be. Okay, so the number is 2913953239. And that number belongs to Jaron Woodward, who is a student living in Maryland. So Jaron Woodward, if you are listening, I need you to send me an email to the107.hbcu@gmail.com. So again, Jaron Woodward, send me an email, the107.hbcu@gmail.com. You have been awarded a $500 scholarship from the Washington, D.C. Silhouettes. All right, so while we wait to hear from Jaron, we are going to move on to our interview with Lydia Brown from Wiley College and Ernie Suggs, Atlanta Journal-Constitution, North Carolina Central University alum, and a huge HBCU advocate.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ms. Jones. All right. So I know time is of the essence, so I'm going to get right into it, Mr. Suggs. I'm thrilled for this opportunity to speak with you this evening, and I'll just give a little brief introduction for those that don't know. You're a graduate of North Carolina Central University, where you finished in English in '90, and you've been a reporter at the Atlanta Journal-Constitution since 1997, where you're currently covering race and culture in a variety of breaking national news and investigative stories. So we welcome you this evening. And like I said, we know time is of the essence. So let's take a trip down memory lane, if you will. And when I think of the 90s, I think of school days and hip hop and neo soul. But tell us about your HBCU experience at North Carolina Central University. Mr. Suggs, are you on mute? Can you say something, mic check? Still can't hear you. Okay, he's going to try to refresh his screen. Well, hello. Still nothing.
What's going on?
There we go. Okay, I can hear you now. Can you hear me? No, it went away again. Do whatever you did before. That was working.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We can hear you now. Okay.
All right. So
Okay,
you mentioned about going to school in the 1990s. I went to
Yes.
school, actually, I graduated in 1990, but
Okay.
I went to college in the 1980s. I graduated from high school in 1985, so I'm really a kind of a late 80s HBCU baby.
Okay.
And I went to Central because it was 85 miles away from Rocky Mount, North Carolina. It was close. It was a good school. I knew it had my major, that I wanted to major in journalism and English particularly. And it was the best decision of my life. In the 1980s, the 1980s was kind of like that last period. Well, I consider kind of that last period of kind of live HBCUs where we're still kind of in a tradition. We're still kind of in those old traditions, but we were kind of converting to the newer traditions. Like I lived in a dorm that only men stayed in. We had one male dorm and 7 female dorms, and we had to, if we wanted to go see a young lady, we had to go to her dorm and page her, and she would have to come down to the lobby. So, you know, it was kind of this quaint existence. The cafeteria closed at 6 o'clock. So it was a totally different experience of what you guys are dealing with now.
Definitely. And I can only imagine, you know, a lot of times people tend to think that attending an HBCU equates to having a smaller experience. And most people don't know that HBCUs have some of the greatest talent from all over the globe. Now, tell us, how did North Carolina Central University prepare you for those transitions in your career that elevated you to where you are now?
North Carolina Central I tell everybody all the time. North Carolina Central University literally did everything for me in terms of my career, my life, who I am as a man. And, you know, most importantly, you know, the most important tangible thing it did was it told me that I needed to get an internship. It told me several things. It told me that I needed to take college serious, and I needed to take the things that were offered by the college serious. So what I mean by that is that I get a lot of people now. I'm a journalist. I get a lot of people now who want to work for a newspaper, or who want to go to graduate school to study journalism, but they have not worked for their school newspaper. They have not worked for their school radio station. They've not worked for their school television station. So my first piece of advice, and the thing that I took advantage of, was to work on my school newspaper. So I worked on my school newspaper because it was a free way to learn the craft in which I wanted to get into. I got an internship after my junior year. That internship, the company that I worked for, Gannett Newspapers, hired me after my senior year. So basically, my senior year in college, between my junior and senior year in college, I knew I had a job, graduating. So I was able to kind of almost relax a little bit. But having an internship and working on campus were the two foundational pieces that led me to my job. And I've been very fortunate to have never had to look for a job. You know, I had a job 2 weeks after I graduated. I was in New York City working. Then I moved to Durham to work for a newspaper. Then I moved to Atlanta in 1997 to work for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. So I've always been very fortunate to have a job in the media. And that's all coming back to what I learned at North Carolina Central University. And I've gone on to Harvard, and I've done, I've been a Neiman Fellow. I've gone to Harvard. I've done, worked all over the world. But every foundational thing I have as a journalist and as a person came from North Carolina Central University.
Wow, I can tell you that is like music to my ears. I currently serve as the program director and on-air main personality at our campus radio station here in Wiley and Marshall for KBWC 91.1 FM. So sounds as if I'm doing just what I'm supposed to be doing. And I love that. That's confirmation. Now, moving on, I'm sure we can both agree just how critical it is for Black students to see that elite roles like yours exist. Who inspired you the most while you were a student, and why is that so important for you to provide that same level of inspiration to other students?
Well, I mean, the people who inspired me were the people who were ahead of me. I came and joined the newspaper as a freshman. I was just telling someone about this the other day. I joined the newspaper as a freshman, and I was taught by older students who were juniors and seniors. Those were the people who guided me through this process. And I was telling someone the other day about my first airplane flight was to cover a football game. North Carolina Central University was playing Grambling in New York City at Yankee Stadium. So my first time flying on an airplane was, covering this game for my school paper. So those are the people who inspired me. But I also had, and I know you all who are listening to this, I had great instructors. I had great professors whom I'm still in contact with now on Facebook. I'm talking to my professors from 30 years ago on Facebook now, and we're having conversations every day. I just sent one of my professors a whole package of stories that I've written over the last year or so. So right. I've been especially inspired by everything about North Carolina Central University because, again, in the 80s, Central was still only about 5,000 students. So now it's about 8,000 or 10,000 students. So it's a bigger school. But then it was kind of very quaint. It was still kind of small. We always talked about everyone knew each other. So everyone was in everybody's business, which was good because we all kind of learned from each other and built off of each other. And today, now, I still have lifelong friends. There's not a day that goes by that I don't talk to someone that I went to college with. Whether that's a frat brother or, just somebody that, I just see on Facebook or whatever. Or Atlanta has a really big population of NCCU graduates. So literally every day I'm doing something or talking to someone who is connected with my university, which is a great thing.
That is a great thing. And just thinking about Atlanta, as I stated earlier, you are currently in a position where you often cover race and culture, where you may see information that includes stereotypes and negative narratives. What are some of the challenges that you have faced in your role as a person of color? And what advice would you give to someone today who may be facing those same challenges?
Well, I mean, as a person of color, especially in the media, it's always a challenge because, like you said, you're always dealing with stereotypes and trying to navigate how to combat how we are presented in the media as a member of the media. So I'm always, I have to be fair. I'm a journalist. So I have to be fair. I have to tell the story the way it is. But I also have to be very cognizant of how stories are told. how we're presented. So I'm always on the lookout for that. One quick story. I did a story about Pascal's Restaurant, and Pascal's Restaurant, for those of you all who know, it's a famous restaurant in Atlanta, and it's a famous civil rights place. And Martin Luther King Jr. and all these people used to meet there for dinner and kind of strategize. So I did a profile of the restaurant as a civil rights, landmark. And I wrote the story, and there was a big layout of the story, and I got to see the layout before it came into print. And one of the cut lines said, Pascal's Restaurant, where Martin Luther King Jr. used to come to eat fried chicken. Now, Martin Luther King Jr. did go there to eat fried chicken. But when you look at that in print, that presents this certain type of image of what this restaurant is and what he is and who he is. And the people who wrote that, they were not being malicious or anything like that. They were not, they were stating a fact. But when you have Black people in the room, like myself, who can go over that and look at that and say, okay, I understand what you were trying to say with this, but this is how it's going to come across when people read it. So it's very important to have Black people, to have minorities, to have diversity in any room, whether it's a newsroom or a hospital room or an emergency room or a law office or whatever. It's always important to have different voices, whether you're Black or gay or Hispanic or, you think a different way or you talk a different language. Diversity is always important, because if you have a room full of people who all have the same mindset, who don't understand what may be happening in a different culture or different, atmosphere, then you're going to have problems. So I always, I look at myself, I'm the head of the diversity committee at my paper, at my job. I run the paper's Black Facebook page. I run the paper's Black History Month series, which we just concluded yesterday. So I'm always kind of looking for things in which we can make it better and how we can present ourselves better and how we can present diversity better at the paper.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, unfortunately, that is all the time that we have this evening with you, Mr. Suggs. This has truly been.
I'm sorry for all the technical problems.
Oh,
no.
No.
As you can see, I'm not a technical person. I'm a writer.
Oh, it happens. It definitely happens. It's okay. We know how to roll with the flow of things. It's not a problem. It's not a problem for professionals like us. All right. So this has truly been so informative and inspiring for me. I hope that anyone watching was able to utilize these gems that you provided with us. Thank you for your time and your contributions that you've made. And thank you for being such a great role model. Where can we find you on social media?
You can find me on Twitter at Ernie Suggs and Instagram at Ernie Suggs.
Awesome.
So yeah, and the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, ajc.com. So subscribe. And thank you very much. I mean, I had a conversation with you this weekend, and I'm very impressed and proud of what you're doing at Wiley College, and
thank you.
Your research and your debate skills. So I'm very happy to have been interviewed by you today.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That means the world to me. I really appreciate that. And you will be seeing more of each other through LinkedIn and social media. And I plan on paying a visit to Atlanta very soon.
Oh, just let me know.
I certainly will. Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Suggs and Lydia. Excellent interview. A lot of great advice, as was said. And I just want to point out a couple of things. So I think Mr. Suggs is being a little modest. He's a Pulitzer Prize winning writer for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. He wrote an entire series on HBCUs and their histories. He also had a podcast on HBCUs called HBCU Journeys, which you can still find online. You need to check it out. There's some great stories there. And finally, one of his classmates actually endowed a scholarship in his name at North Carolina Central University because of the work that he has done. So very well accomplished, and I'm glad we were able to finally get him tied in so that we could hear his story. Next up, one more thing before we go to our final interview for the evening. We were able to connect with Jaron. He will be awarded a $500 scholarship. So thank you. And everybody else, remember, we're going to be giving out more scholarships this week. Make sure you tune in again. Thanks, Lydia.
No problem.
All right. So our next interview is with Katie Smith, who is a student at Lawson State Community College in Birmingham, Alabama. And Brandon Frazier, who is alumnus of Kentucky State University. And I see they're both representing their schools. I love it.
Good evening, Katie. Hello again.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear
You
me?
can? Yes, sir, I can hear
Wonderful.
you. Okay, good. All right. Well, it's very, very nice speaking to you again. I'm really excited to get to know you better outside of the conversation we had earlier this week. And just to make sure that I'm correct before we get into everything, you graduated from Kentucky State University with the English degree, and you are currently the managing director of external affairs
At XQ Institute. That is correct.
at XQSC. Yes, sir. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and jump into it since everyone's been on a limited time frame. I want to start off by getting a rundown and asking you why you chose your institution and what are some of your best memories from your HBCU.
Absolutely. Thank you, Katie. As many of the panelists have talked about earlier, having the HBCU experience is very significant. It's important to have a sense of culture and a sense of belonging and being able to be in a space where you feel welcomed and you see others who look like you. I was fortunate in growing up in Columbus, Ohio. I wanted to have, as again, a lot of the panelists have said, I wanted to have the accessibility to be able to be close to home, but also far enough away. Kentucky State is in Frankfort, Kentucky, the state capital, and it's about 3 hours away from Columbus. So you could get there back and forth pretty fast, but you still were able to have a different experience. And I knew I wanted to go to school out of state. I knew I was interested in the HBCU. And at that time, I ended up having scholarships in academics, athletics, and music. And a lot of places were restricting what those opportunities could be. So having the chance to um, participate in extracurricular activities that I was interested in, being able to be part of a strong music program that had a strong alumni base in Columbus, Ohio, the ability to feel nurtured, with the ability to be impactful. So um, always, I very much enjoyed the time. And to your second point, the things that I enjoyed, all of it, it was holistically nurturing. The ability to meet lifelong friends, to become a member of Kappa Alpha Psi. And by the way, March 1st, 1935 is our chapter anniversary. Shout out to Alpha Upsilon, nonetheless. And being part of the track team, being part of concert choir, maintaining those relationships, being able to have multiple internships, having the chance to travel, having the chance to have those formative years to learn the better version of you and the evolved version of you. And those are the lessons that you take as you continue to grow and mature along the way.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. I want to kind of dig into the conversation we had earlier this week. You mentioned, I think I mentioned that you have to be, I assume that you have to be very creative with your current position in your career. So I want to ask, what advice do you have for any upcoming or current college students who have the same current interest?
Well, be inquisitive. Um, Lean into your intellectual curiosity. Um, have a belief in yourself. Um, Read, observe, be an active listener and an active learner. Um, be a participant and a contributor to the collegiate experience. Be involved and understand that as nurturing as that college campus can be, it's also important to explore the world outside of your window. So identifying not only the things within your major, but also the things in which you're interested in and passionate about, exploring what those opportunities can look like, whether it's through fellowships, whether it's through internships, whether it's through training programs or certifications. Um, Having access to technology gives you access to information. So follow those roads and don't be nervous about taking risks. Use this window of opportunity to learn. Even if you're learning about what you don't like, you now know. And each experience allows you to move further in your development.
Yes, sir. How would you say you got to where you are now? What kinds of things, what kinds of obstacles did you face, and how did you get through them?
Well, as some of our panelists have spoken on, we are still in a space in which those who look like us have inherent obstacles placed in front of them. You are regularly undervalued. There are assumptions and biases when you walk into the room. Um, but as I referenced earlier, being able to have that confidence within yourself is essential to help mitigate some of those things. Recognize that those obstacles are there um, and learn how to navigate through them. Being able to focus on the things within your control. Um, the one thing that people can't take away from you is the intellect, your knowledge, your wisdom, and your skill set. Um, Identify opportunities to learn and build despite some of those obstacles. Um, Lean into the relationships, as our other panelists spoke of. Lean into the collegiate relationships. Lean into the relationships amongst mentors. Actively seek mentorship and put yourself in a position where that mentorship becomes sponsorship. And from that, put yourself in a position where others can see your potential and value you and want to invest and pour into you. And in order to do that, they have to also see that you are equally ambitious and aspirational in pouring into yourself. So if you're able to build those bonds and build those relationships that are sustained and which are very unique and very special about the HBCU experience because you have that intimacy, um, take those with you, recognize that you're not alone, recognize that beyond your alma mater, there is a unity amongst HBCUs overall, and lean into those. But also recognize that your responsibility is to add value to that, and to be part of that process and to be part of that progress.
Um, you seem like you're very adamant about your career, and that's really, really inspiring. But I always like to ask people, in your college experience, did you have any other career interests besides the one that you had and the one that you succeeded in? Did you have any other career interests, and what was the deciding factor of deciding the one that you currently have now?
Thank you. I was very fortunate in that I knew early on in my life that um, I was interested in a few things. I knew that I was interested in media in some degree um, when I was 12 years old. But I also knew that through that experience in media, that I would wind up on the East Coast because there's only a certain subset of cities at that time where you could really lean in. And then at that time, New York was seen as the media mecca. So I always thought that I would wind up there. But again, that's aspirational. And as we've talked about in our earlier conversation, aspiration and ambition is one thing, but your responsibility is to do the work so you can meet that expectation that you're setting for yourself. Um, Majoring in English, I knew that there was a lot of directions that I could take that. You can go the journalism route. You can go a marketing route. You can go a communications and public relations route. You can go to law school, or you can go into education, amongst other things. Um, I wanted to see what the opportunities could present themselves in that media space because I knew that these other paths were available to me and still are. So when I talked about New York being the media mecca at that time, I saw myself as I wanted to wind up there. But I was fortunate enough that my first job out of Kentucky State was at ABC News in Manhattan. So instead of winding up in New York, I started in New York. But the benefit to that was it helped me establish a foundation professionally that allowed me to move to DC and continue to expand those things and pivoting from the straight journalism space into the communications and engagement space where I've spent the better part of 15 years.
Wow, that sounds so amazing. I'm gonna wrap it up with one last question. The question that everyone has to ask. What is your proudest accomplishment and how did you get there?
Collegiately or just overall?
Um, just overall, I guess what accomplishment really hits at home with your heart or with yourself that makes
Okay,
you feel the proudest.
I got you. Um, and this kind of touches on one of your earlier questions. Um, I'm not going to act like this road is easy or smooth. Um, it's okay to have chips on your shoulders. Um, a lot of the stresses provide that, and there's just a default setting. Um, Turn those chips on your shoulders and put them as footstools. Use them to rise above. They're still connected to you, but they're still foundational. But learn from them and grow from them. Part of that in my professional journey was I spent a lot of years um, having to manage up. I spent a lot of years being the right hand of directors and executive leaders and not having the opportunity to run my own shop. I said that was a goal of mine. I spent 7 years interviewing for VP and director roles until I got one.
Wow.
Um, there was a lot of obstacles that went with that. There was a lot of times where people said, basically downgrade. Um, they said maybe you should go into teaching. Maybe you should, um, you know, go this way or go that way. It takes a very strong amount of confidence to believe in yourself and to value yourself to the point where you're not going to subjugate your passion and subjugate who you know you are and what you know you are capable of doing. So those years, plural, were not easy. Um, the experiences gained through those, however, allowed me to be a very strong leader, a very strong mentor under the adage that be the supervisor you always wished you had, be the mentor you always wished you had, be the leader you always wished you had. And the blessing is being able to be in the position to do those things now. And it's an extension of why just this evening, it was an easy yes to be able to participate in tonight's panel. And I don't see this as the end of the night or the last conversation. I see it as the start of an ongoing dialogue in which I aim to be of service and to be a resource of assistance for anyone who's listening and anyone who is interested in trying to follow this path as well. I want you to learn from the things I did right and wrong so you don't have to make those mistakes.
Wow. Thank you so much, Mr. Fraser. I really appreciate you saying that because I do feel like a lot of times, as um, a lot of us have said um, on the call or on the meeting this evening, that, with people of color, we have high expectations to live up to because a lot of times we are seen in a certain way when we shouldn't, but it's just one of those things where we have to work a little bit harder than other people, and that's okay because I think that just makes us stronger and that makes us stick out more.
Hmm.
But one of the things you said, I like how you said you have to believe in yourself even when times get tough, because a lot of times when you have that expectation on your shoulders, or as a color person, I don't want to be seen this way and that way, and sometimes you really just have to tell yourself, you know at the end of the day, it's all about you being proud of yourself. And that's why I want that to be the last question. Um, so you could, let us know what's your proudest accomplishment. What, not to anyone else, but just
Hmm.
to you in general. Because even me as a student, I feel like with my degree and things like that, with nursing and stuff, it's really tough because a lot of people think that when you're in a hard curriculum or any kind of career interest that just takes a lot out of you. I think that some people um, they just expect for everyone to make it hard for you, when really sometimes it's not always about being hard on the student or having the high expectation. It's about making yourself proud at the end of your accomplishments and at the end of your journey with college and things like that.
Absolutely. And to that, I'd say, as we referenced a little earlier, never let anybody have higher expectations of you than you have of yourself. Um, it will sustain you. It will help. It'll help you through your valleys, and it'll make you appreciate those peaks. And it'll give you something to work toward and to sustain and to feel fulfilled, because you know of what that road took.
Yes,
So
sir. Thank you
I'm
so
very
much.
excited about you to following this journey of your own, and I look forward to helping you along the way.
Thank you so much, Mr. Frazier. I look
My
forward to it too.
pleasure.
Thank you again to both of you for joining us this evening. Um, Definitely a lot of great words of wisdom. And as Mr. Frazier pointed out, as soon as I sent him a message and asked him if he was willing to participate, he said yes. I have found that to be the case with many alumni from HBCUs. We're always willing to reach back, help, provide advice, and support one another. That's the beauty of the HBCU experience. Even though we have more than 100 colleges, we are all connected and we all support and look out for each other like one family. So thank you for joining us. We have one more conversation we're going to have, and then we're going to close out this evening. All right, so we are going to close out our evening with a conversation with Howard University journalism student Trinity Webster Bass. Trinity is here with us, and I'm excited she stayed along because unfortunately, the person that she was supposed to interview had some complications this evening. However, I didn't want her night to be wasted by just sitting here watching, so we're going to have a brief conversation with her. Trinity is a student at my alma mater, Howard University. And so we're going to talk to her for a couple of minutes about her experience so far. So first, Trinity, can you tell us how you found your way to Howard University?
I first want to say that tonight has definitely not been a waste. I've been listening in this entire time, and there's been so much wonderful words of wisdom that have been shared. So it's just a pleasure to even be a part of this.
I
So
appreciate that. I'm glad you found some value.
tonight has been wonderful. Yes. So I found my way to Howard because I've always known about Howard, but as I got closer and closer to application season, Howard kind of worked its way up on my list. Um, I'm a part of the Kathy Hughes School of Communications, and we just have a very robust journalism program. As many people know, Dr. Nicole Hannah-Jones has recently joined our league of many wonderful journalists and media professionals who are a part of SOC, School of Communication. So it's just been a wonderful journey of getting here and being a part of this journalism program.
All right. And so far, because what classification? Let us know.
I'm actually a first year student.
So Trinity is a freshman at Howard University, but you can't tell because she has been a professional so far throughout this entire, not just today, but in her previous interviews, she's been excellent. So you would never know that she's just starting her Howard journey and her professional journey. But so far, what has been your favorite thing that's happened in your experience at Howard University?
There's so many, it's hard to just pick one. I'd say from the first semester, one of my best experiences was outside of the School of Communications was actually getting the pleasure of meeting Roberta Flack. That was one of the most amazing experiences ever. I also was able to sit in on Dr. Nicole Hannah-Jones' talk that she had at SOC, School of Communications, for her newest book, The 1619 Project, and that was also phenomenal. Of course, there's just a lovely community here of students, and I think that's one of my favorite parts of Howard is the students and the people who are here who make this such a wonderful experience. Just like going to the games, going to just seeing everyone out on the yard and just like being lively and beautiful and all of that. It's just awesome.
I have to say that the people were probably one of the biggest things that I loved about Howard University as well when I was there. And I often tell people when as I promote historically Black colleges and universities, that when we look at the resources of our colleges, a lot of times the conversation goes to something that's that you can quantify. You know, they might look at the budget, they might look at the endowment or things like that. And without realizing that the true resource of an HBCU is actually the people, the students that you go to school with, the professors that you work with that are really looking out for you, the alumni that also reach back and make a difference for you. Yesterday, when we had our conversation with Dallas Jackson, who's the director and producer in LA, he talked about the fact that when he first got started, he started off with another student from Howard. And then when he got to LA, the people that helped him out first were people from Howard. And so using that network and making those connections is the people that really make the biggest difference in your experience there. So finally, you're a freshman. You have 3 more years to go. What are some of the things that you are looking forward to the most in your Howard experience?
I think I'm definitely looking forward to continuing my journalism or journalistic endeavors at Howard. I'm looking forward to writing for the Hilltop, which is one of the only HBCU. It's the oldest HBCU collegiate newspaper for one, and two, it's one of the only HBCUs that is available on Apple News, which is such a great honor. So anyone across the world can have access to the Hilltop, which is amazing. And second, WHUR, which is our radio station here. I'm also involved with that, and it's just a wonderful experience, and I'm so glad to be there. And I'm just looking forward to continuing that throughout my 4 years of college. And lastly, I think I'm most excited for the opportunities that this HBCU is going to bring. I think already thus far, I've experienced so much and got to meet so many people and have so many experiences. And I think that's something very unique to an HBCU. So I'm looking forward to those opportunities that are only available for HBCU students. So.
I'm glad to hear it. And I'm glad to hear you say that you are going to be writing for the Hilltop. When I was at Howard, I had quite a few friends who were communications major who wrote for the Hilltop. And I got to give a shout out to one of my board members, who's also my line sister, Otisa Miles, who is a former editor-in-chief of the Hilltop. I'm sure she's watching right now. So that's great. We look forward to following you along your journey. And I hope that one day I will see you in the same place that we saw Mr. Suggs. Or you decide that you want to pursue a different path, then we're looking forward to what that looks like as well for you. So good luck with everything, Trinity. Thank you for joining us this evening. And everybody, have a great night.
Thank you.